Today is March 26th. It's 12:05 p.m. We are at the Center for Sacramento History. Please state your full name and spell it for me.
Andrew Martinez, AndrewMartinez.
All right. When were you born? Date?
1/23/47. I was born in January 23rd.
And where were you born?
Sacramento. Right down the street. On Bannon Street.
All right. Were you born in the house?
No, I was born in the county hospital, but spent like 8 years on Bannon Street, right down there. That's where all the Latinos lived.
Mm-hmm. And what is your marital status?
What is what?
Are you married?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have children?
Yes.
How many?
4. And then I have 2 stepchildren.
Okay.
6.
Do you want to state their names?
Andy 1, Andy 2, Andy 3, Andy 4, Tracy, and Brian.
Okay. Where were you raised?
In Sacramento.
Okay. What did your parents do for a living?
My mom did a little bit of everything. I don't know too much about there. My dad passed away when I was 5 years old from cirrhosis of the liver.
Mm-hmm. And how many siblings?
There was 10 in my family.
Yeah. So your dad passed away when you were 5, and your mom raised you on her own, or?
Yeah, for a little while, and then she met Paul Ramirez, and then had 3 kids by him. Mm-hmm. But she had 7 kids with my dad.
Mm-hmm. How old was she when your dad passed?
Wow. She was pretty young. I would say she was 20. God, tell my mom was 25. She had 7 kids. So I want to say she had to be maybe 29 or 30 years old. Because she had my brother at 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you said you grew up in Sacramento. What neighborhood?
Bannon Street, right here, Richardson Boulevard, right off of Richardson Boulevard.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about that neighborhood.
God, I think just the initial road at Bannon Street is the initial road. Outside of that, there's really no roads. There's houses, and there's just a bunch of rock and stuff. And the first Sacramento dump was right there, right by the railroad tracks. And the train was the railroad track was probably 20 feet from my house. Mm-hmm. And nobody got ran over. Yeah, and we had an outhouse. We had no hot water. We had no grass. You come home from school, you take your shoes off and play barefooted. They used to have bonfires. They used to go hunting out here. And they'd bring the deer back, and the paisas and everybody, they'd have a big bonfire there, and they'd be doing pigs. And about 15 of us kids, when we were little, come over here to Discovery Park and go swimming. And then all together, everybody go back, and it was pretty good. The Catholic Church would come down and pick us all up and take us to church downtown, and they would take us skating. They would pay for everything. We never had to pay for nothing growing up. At least until, anything that had to do with the church, with roller skating, with going down to the YMCA, go swimming free. When we were little, we had the Pepsi Cola show. You get 3 bottle caps and you go to the show free. 3 Pepsi bottle caps. And the cheap shows back when I was little was only 10 cents. 10 cents. And then if you wanted a free haircut, you go downtown. All the Mexicans would go to the Barber College and go to the free room. And that's where the beginners were at. And you looked at when you got out, you know. So that was go there, go to the YMCA, go swimming, 10 cents. We would go, the CNC metal is still right down the street here on on Banner Street. It's called CNC metal. We would go over the fence and grab stuff from the railroad, from the iron workers, take it to the front, and no matter what we brought up there, he gave us a dime. There would be like 7 or 9 of us. Then we would go downtown, go get a free haircut at the Barber College, then go to the YMCA, swim free. Then we would come up right where Caesar Park is at. That was the Roxy Theater. It was called the World or the Roxy Theater. One guy would pay 10 cents, he'd get in, and then go open the door on the side, and then the other 7 guys would come in the door.
Yeah.
Back then, it was a simple life. I mean, we went to Dos Rios Elementary, right down the street here, and we come home from school. You had cardboards in your shoes, you had holes in them, and you played barefooted. We had coffee cans in our house to go to the bathroom in because we had an outhouse, and no hot water. We did all our clothes by hand with a scrub board, and ivory soap was for everybody. And my mom had a wooden stove, and we just collected wood out here. A lot of this was all field when I was growing up, and we just gather up wood and take it home, and that's what she did.
Yeah. You said you had 7 siblings before your mom remarried. So where are you in that order of kids?
I was number 3.
Okay.
I was the 3rd son. I had my brother, then my sister, then me. Then the rest of the other 5 behind me were all boys. So there was 6 boys and 1 girl. So that meant my sister had to cook and be the mother to the last 2. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tradition.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's a lot of food to feed all those hungry boys. Your mom must have been doing a lot of cooking.
Yeah. My mom told me that when her dad died, her mom died from an aneurysm. Mm-hmm. Her mom was 27 years old, and my mom was 13, and my uncle was 11, and then another year later, at 14, my grandpa died cirrhosis of the liver, and my mom said that her and her brother, my uncle, worked in a chicken house, plucking chickens for 10 cents an hour, 10 hours a day. So they got $2 a day. She said they stood in a boarding room, had a little electric stove, and then she met my dad at 15 and got pregnant at 15 and had my brother. So my oldest brother, he passed away cirrhosis of the liver. Mm-hmm. And they were only 15 years apart, 15 and a half years apart. Yeah. So
was it alcohol related?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and also 2 years ago, my son died cirrhosis of the liver. Mm-hmm. You know, so try to stay away from that stuff.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Tell me a little bit about your dad. Do you have any memories of him?
No, but I do know though that I took Chicano history in college at Casumas, and I did not know that the United States made an agreement with Mexico, and something like, 30,000 Mexicans went to fight for the United States. And if you live, you can become a citizen. So the Mexicans that were together was almost just like the Navajos. They had their own dialect in the field. And my dad, I had a photo somewhere in my house. My dad was a medic. And then after the war, he survived. And so he ended up in Oklahoma. And from there, he came to California. And he was one of the lucky ones that was able to stay here and do a bypass, because after that, there was no work for the American citizens. So all the Mexicans that fought in the Second War and lived, they were put back in boxcars and shipped back to Mexico. But my dad, some way, somehow filtered his way to stay here. Mm-hmm. And my mom said our real last name is Martinez. My cousins kept that name, Martinez, but my dad felt that it was too wetback. Mm. And he said, we'll change it to Martinez. So that's how it ended. And that's how we became friends. I'm first generation here. Mm-hmm. So that I don't know too much about my dad, because it was...
Yeah, you were just 5.
Yeah, I was like 5, 6 years old when...
Yeah.
But
you know he was a veteran in World War II.
Yes, I have a photo of him somewhere standing next to the medic truck.
Did you see that picture when you were a kid, or?
Yeah, and my mom gave it to me. I some way, somehow, I don't know what I did with it, but that's the only photo I have of my dad.
Yeah. So you said you went to school here in Sacramento. Do you remember, like, what the student population was? Was it like Mexican or white or mixed, or?
No, well, like right here, like you might as well say Dos Rios Elementary, because the Dos Rios projects was like 95% Latinos, mm-hmm. And then over here on Bannon Street was like 95% Latinos.
Yeah.
They'd be boiling pigs, big tina como se, man, like this, and put the pig in there, and, big bonfires, everybody sharing everything, and mm-hmm. nobody getting molested, nobody getting killed. It was just, you didn't have lock on your door, half the time, in the summertime, we had no windows, it was just, it was safe. It was safe. But when I went to Norte del Rio in North Sacramento, high school, in Las Palmas Junior High, I would say that pretty close to 50, maybe 40% of the kids at Norte del Rio High were Latinos, because then they come from Gardenland, because I have relatives in Gardenland. And that was before Northgate was built. That was all fields. We used to go work in the fields there at the age of 10.
So would they bus you? Is that what they did?
Yes,
they bused you over there.
Right.
Do you remember, like, experiencing any discrimination when you were in school there, or?
Yeah, back then was always, when you get in a fight with a white kid, it was always go back to where you come from, and I didn't realize that I am where I'm from. California belonged to Mexico. So Arizona, Texas, it all belonged to Mexico. You go back to where you come from, and that's what a thing that I realized, that growing up, and I tell a lot of the Mexicans now, it's upsetting for the Latinos that are here, do not learn English. It's upsetting. Never in my life growing up that any white person said to me, "Do you speak English?" No. And now I'm getting ready to retire. I'm working in Palo Alto as a brick mason, and my boss says, "Hey, we need an interpreter because we want to start hiring some Latinos, and they're not bilingual." I said, "Well, then you better find a Latino that's bilingual." And he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "I'm not bilingual." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "No other race do people think that you're bilingual. Only if you're Latino, people think you're bilingual." Mm-hmm. Seems like that's the only race that they'll be, "Man, you speak good English for a brown boy. How long you been here?" Phew, man, that gets me a little bit upset.
Yeah.
Because when I went to Dos Rios, in kindergarten, you spoke Mexican, they sent you home.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell them, I said, I took Spanish at Casumas for 3 semesters trying to learn it, but Spanish is different from Mexican, and then taking that, there's 26 different major dialects in Mexico, So when Santa Ana come here, the dialect, they're the only ones that had horses and guns, and Mexicans had nothing. So if they had a problem back then, what do you think we're going through here? And that was the heartening thing. And then my mom just said everything that pertained inside the house, it was Spanish, Mexican, but everything outside the house is all English. So I know that this is un vaso, this is la mesa, and the platos, and limpia this, and limpia that. My mom would say, got the escoba. The minute you step out that, it was messing with my brain when I was little, What do you want me to do, mommy? Get it hablar inglés or español or what?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, my mom just cut it completely. And then if you said something in Spanish, my mom would take her slipper and just slap you in the mouth. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if she got any backlash from the school for speaking Spanish to you all. Did she ever talk about that, or?
No, I was. My mom went to the elementary school was right there in North Sacramento, and they're trying to save that school right there off of Del Paso Boulevard and Dixie Ann. Dixie Ann and Del Paso Boulevard. That school, my mom went there in elementary. Mm. And my mom said there was enough Mexicans, there that they didn't kind of intermit. Look, when I was at Norte del Rio, the Afro Americans, they were on this side over here. The Latinos, we all on this side, and the whites were all right here. And the only time we integrated was when I was in a school band. I played the drums. I was in a school band, or you participated in sports. Then you integrated. But aside from that, when you're eating lunch or you're walking around, you're with the raza. You're with your own kind. You go to the football games, you're with your own kind. And a lot of the Caucasians, we got along. When you're doing sports, and you're not so bad for a Mexican. Oh, thank you.
What sports did you play?
Huh?
Did you play sports?
Yes, I did cross country, and I did distance running for like the 220, the 440, stuff like that. But because I was so little, I tried to go out for basketball, but the coach said that they weren't taking Mexican leprechauns, out there. So we played for the organization that helped us out in North Sacramento from here was the Optimists Club. And Little Joe's Restaurant would feed us hamburgers and fries, Cokes free, and we'd have the meetings over there in a room. And that was an outlet, so we played basketball all the time. And then Woodlake Elementary, when they built that area, that was the wealthy area, but that was the only basketball area that we could play in. And then our leader for the Optimists would got the gym, and then all of us from North Sacramento would go over there and play. All the Latinos would go down there and play basketball. But aside from high school, there was very few Latinos in sports. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Yeah. But when you grow up in it, it's not that tough. It's tough if you don't grow up in it and you're put in it, and right. that's what's really tough, mm-hmm. And when we had the parades, the Latinos were strong in the parades. We'd represent. I'd get all dressed up, have my spurs and black pants and all the spurs on the side, and my poncho hat, my Villa Zapata hat, and I'd be doing it. Everybody lining up, and it was.
For what parade?
This, downtown Sacramento. My stepmom, Paul Ramirez, his mom Nanaqueta, she started the same thing like that monument downtown at the Capitol. That's my uncle. The monument. It's the statue that's there. That's my uncle. Nanaqueta started the
Mothers Mexicanas de Guerra?
Yeah.
Mexican War Mothers?
You know my cousin Diane?
I do.
Yes, Diane is my cousin. And all of her sons fought in the war, and every one of them was wounded. My Uncle Ed and Paul and Joe and Gardo, all of them. And then Diane, her dad. So Nanaqueta raised the money, sold burritos to build that, I think in Italy, and paid $5,000 and had it shipped here. But that used to be at the Mexican Center. At Mexican Center, well, I'll tell you, when you're a Latino and 5 years old, what you get for Christmas is a knife. It was sad. It's just sad that the Latinos don't bond. It's just heartening. It's really heartening. How we separate. I was at one time in the Brown Berets. In the militant movement, and we used to go to meetings to the Black Panthers and in Oak Park. And at one of the meetings, they said that we don't have to worry about our brown brothers because they'll take care of each other. They'll kill each other off. The Latinos. I always say that if a Latino got a brain, it would be over. It doesn't matter to be the population if you don't have a brain. If you have no representation, population means nothing.
Mm-hmm. So you were in the Brown Berets in high school or in college?
No, here at 17 years old.
17.
With the militant movement. Yeah. Back then.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I had, but somewhere, somehow, there's some photos. Somewhere, somebody has them, and we had the hat with the little fist, and we had our hats and stuff, just like the Black Panthers. It was the same thing. We'd go downtown and bust windows and stuff, and it just did stupid crap, that made no sense. But the thing that hurt me was that at that time when the Brown Berets got together, we formed Concilio. And when there was a gentleman that helped us out, that really cared for us, his name was Gene Reyes. And down the Washington Neighborhood Center, because when I went to Dos Rios from Bannon Street, we also lived on 12th Street, and we went down there, where the Jalisco store is at, right across the street. And but the Washington Center was there, and Gene Reyes kept us together. And when we started that, and I didn't realize when we formed Concilio that there was 26 different Mexican organizations that surfaced and said, help us. Well, where were you at when we didn't have the Brown Berets? Where were you at? They weren't even around. I didn't even know there was one Mexican organization, And then the other thing is that when we formed Concilio, the Latinos messed it up. Some of the stuff they did, I don't want to say anything, but some of the stuff they did was not right, and you start taking payolas and doing this and that, and I always used to use the term pa' aquí and pa' allá. That's no good. That's not going to help us, Yeah. I always say to everybody, the other race, I always say, oh yeah, but you guys are the population. That doesn't matter. Population doesn't matter. If you're controlling the population, what good is the population?
Yeah. So let's go back to high school. When did you graduate from high school?
Yes.
What year did you graduate?
65.
65. And did you have siblings that had graduated from high school, or were you the first, or?
No, my brother was the first, and my brother went to Sac State and graduated from Sac State. You know, uh, and then he became a big shot with AT&T. They drafted him out of college, and then doing that drinking, you know, with the supervisors and getting together, and he then because he got promoted and went to Pleasanton, right there across from Diablo, no Dublin, Livermore, and Pleasanton. He was there and started drinking and getting DUIs, and he got 7 DUIs. Here's a guy that graduated honors in his class at Sac State and got 7 DUIs, ended up doing 5 years in prison, not jail, prison. And then ended up working for minimum wage in a forklift warehouse.
Yeah.
And then he just kept on drinking, never stopped. He went through rehab 3 times, but he just never stopped.
Yeah.
You know, it's just sad.
So you said he was drafted. He went to Vietnam, or?
No, I volunteered at the time. I volunteered for Vietnam, so you can only have, and I was in infantry, so you can only have one son in combat.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother Jimmy went to Korea, my brother Robert went to Germany, and my brother Johnny was in Fort Lewis. So
tell me about that. Tell me, you graduate from high school, and what happens? You said you volunteered. Where
Yeah.
did you volunteer? What happens after that?
Well, I volunteered in '68. I should have went. I tried to volunteer in '65 like my group did when the wave first went over. I lost a lot of friends out of high school, and but I got into some trouble. So, meanwhile, while I was in trouble, I couldn't go in, and then when I got out, I said, "This is going to be my meal ticket." In '68, the war was still going on, and it had an ad in the paper. You know, we need guys volunteer for airborne infantry, and I told my probation officer, I said, "This is my meal ticket," and he goes, "You don't want to do that." I go, "Yes, I do." He goes, "You have 2 kids." I go, "I know," but I said, "I need this to provide for my family." And he says, "Well, we got to get this from the judge." So, and then when I went to the judge, got a hearing, the judge said, "Well, you know, you done time in juvenile as well. So before we can move forward, you got to sponge your juvenile record. And then we can work on your adult record." And I was on 5 years probation. So the judge says to me, "Give me a reason why I should sign this and let you go." I said, "Well, Your Honor, I'm working for minimum wage, which back then was like about $1.25 an hour." I says, "I'm working minimum wage," and I said, "I'm not going to lie to you. I'm still doing crime to subsidize my income." And he says, "Oh, that's not good enough. Give me something better." And I said, "Well, Your Honor, I'm in a free country and I'm not free." He said, "But if I go to Vietnam and I live," and he said, "Yes, if you live, you could die." I go, I know, Your Honor, I know. "But if I live and I come back, I'll be a free man. I'll be able to give my family a life and give them a direction." And so he says to me, "That's pretty bold, young man." And I said, "Yeah." He said, I take my hat off to you. That's pretty bold." And I said, "Thank you." And he signed the papers.
Mm-hmm.
So mine was direct to Vietnam Airborne Infantry, 2 years. you know. So
How old were you? You said it was 3 years after you graduated high school. So were you 20?
I was 19, getting ready to turn 20,
Mm-hmm.
and so then I did a fast track. I went through basic AIT, jump school, then came home for 7 days, and then went straight to NOM. The before you used to go to basic training and you come home for 20 days, then you go to AIT, then you come home for 10 days, then you go wherever, Korea, Germany, anything. But mine was direct to Vietnam, so I was on a fast track. Came home for 7 days, and then I'm flying 19,000 miles or 19 hours to get to Vietnam.
So you said you had 2 kids. What were their ages at the time?
Let's see, 65, 3 and probably a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And were you married or were you just?
Yes, I was married.
So what did your wife say when you decided this?
She didn't know. I left. I left the day before Thanksgiving. I had my brother-in-law take me to the Greyhound bus station. I said, "Don't tell nobody." He goes, "Don't even tell her. I don't even tell her. I want to make sure that I'm in." And what it was when I went to Oakland Terminal, they mine, because I was a volunteer. I didn't have to take the test. He just asked me. There was like 9 of us that volunteered direct to Vietnam, airborne infantry, and he said, "Oh, are you afraid of the dark?" "Oh, no." "You like camping?" "Yeah." "You know how to operate a flashlight?" "Yeah." He goes, "Hey, Sarge, 3 questions," and they all got them right. He says, "I'll move them out. See, these guys are 2-year direct to Vietnam." He goes, so we moved out and lined up, and the doctor said, "Drop your pants." He said, "Drop your pants," and he went down 9 of us. Cough, 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 cough. Then turned around. He said, "Spread your cheeks." Good, 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 good. He said, "Okay, the bus is waiting out there. Get on the bus. You're going to Fort Benning, Georgia."
Mm-hmm.
So, Fort Lewis, Washington. So I didn't say nothing until I got to Fort Lewis. So 2 days later, I call her up. She goes, "Where the hell are you at?" I said, "I'm in Fort Lewis, Washington." She goes, "What are you doing there?" I said, "I'm in the Army." She goes, "What?" I said, "I'm in the Army." I said, "I'm going to Vietnam." She said, "What?" So that was it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just, I try to tell people, when you're here and you're doing, and you do stuff with your lips, you're pushing somebody, you push the person, you push him. And when I came back from Nam, I used to tell people, if I put boxing gloves on your lips, you'll beat me up. You go to hell, you go to hell, you go to hell, you go to hell. And when I got to Nam, after my 3rd, 4th day, got in my first firefight. One of the comrades got killed. I looked, the chopper picked him up. After the firefight lasted about 10 minutes, we were fighting Viet Cong. And so they picked him up, put him in the chopper. And I thought to myself, I said, "Andy, this is real. That kid is dead. That's real." I said, I think you messed up. My brain. I always tell people, your brain's got lips. I'm not talking to nobody. And there's where I always came back to the world. We call this the world. And tell everybody, your brain's got lips. And my brain said, "Andy, you messed up." I'm sitting there and I'm going, "You made a bad decision. And there's nothing I can do about it now. You can't call a chopper or tell the guy, I made a bad decision." I want to get out of here. We'll start walking, you know. And it was real. The reality was, it was, you can't even put it in words. You can't explain it when you were in your first assault. And that was crazy. 4 days later, I was telling like the sergeant, I said, "Hey, how do I get one of these? How do I get one of those?" And he said, "Well, the bottom line was to get that, you got to get your first kill." I said, "Got to kill somebody to get that?" Because every one of them, everybody has one. You look that on my neck, you see everybody in the photo has one. I go, "How do you get one of those?" You gotta kill Charlie. You gotta kill Charlie. He goes, "Yeah." Then you'll get one. And 4 days later, nine of them are dee-dee-bopping down the trail. And I try to tell people, your heart is that big when you get there. And it will shrink that fast to, after, I want to say, it depends on how many firefights you're in, where you're heartless. You have no heart. It's the brutalness of war and what people do to each other is unbelievable. And after a while, it's meaningless to you. And when I got my first kill, I ran down there like a kid going to a candy store. I couldn't get that AK-47 out of that magazine fast enough, and sawed it down because every fire team, hawk team, had a machete and a file to go through the jungle. I filed that and I put that around my neck, and I was just so proud of myself for killing somebody. And how would you could never do that here. It just, and then all of a sudden, just, you couldn't wait to kill somebody again. It's just over and over. And part of it is self-preservation. That's all it is. No, very, very rare you see people cry after your buddies get killed or dismembered. And everybody, when it's over, you hug each other, give the sign of the cross, and you thank God that you made it. Because like every morning you wake up, Sergeant Cuddles would say, "Pray today and hope for tomorrow." And it just becomes meaningless. It just, war, there's so many different things in it.
Andy, I wanted to just try to go a little bit deeper. I'm wondering, like, you're a guy who grew up, in an area where you were like, really, you guys had to fend for yourselves. You had to cook for yourself, bring the leña, and you talked about hunting. You talked about then you had time. You did some time in juvie. You did some time after. So you're considered, like, quote, a tough guy, right? So I'm just trying to picture what that means, because there's like a misconception of what a tough guy is, right? And I'm trying to, like, envision you in Vietnam and then witnessing the first body that's like, I mean, that's very different, right? That's like a crude reality. So how is it that you're, like, trying to figure out what's happening, right? When you're a little older than a lot of the kids that were sent to Vietnam, right?
Yeah,
Some of them.
Yeah, the average age in the 173rd, this unit, the average age was 18 years old. The average age across the board in Vietnam in combat was 19. In World War II, it was 26 years old. It's a lot of difference. And, like I says, you couldn't vote, you couldn't get married on your own, you couldn't smoke, you couldn't drink, but you could die for this country.
Yeah.
As the overall, when when you're there, you're not the same person. Okay, when we landed in Shangrang Valley, you go to a 4-day orientation, and they tell you everything you trained for back in the world, forget it. Now we're here. Now, in 65, they did something this way. Well, guys got killed this way. Okay, let's erase this. 66, we're not going to do that no more. We're going to do it this way. 67, 68, 69, you get that claymore, set it down, put the cap in it, roll it back, detonate it. Have it ready at all times. Do not put the safety on. Do not put the safety on your weapon. Do not do this. Do not do that. And during the firefight, you're going to want help. Your comrades are going to be wounded. But our life just means just as much as your life. So just listen up. Someone's going to train you. And whatever they say, you do. Do not have any questions of something that don't pertain to what you're doing in that field, in that section, So it's same thing like when I did Sergeant Stan. Now I'm team leader, and guys would rotate, pull and point. And to learn all that, you're not the same person. You're not that tough guy. Hey, you don't need to show me shit, like Sergeant Stan. I'm the sergeant. I said, I know, Sarge. I know you're the sergeant. But I've been here 4 months already. You do what I tell you. I'm not going to do that. I said, you don't know. If you want to, you can go out there by yourself then. If you think that patch ain't going to keep you alive. That sergeant. Knowing what to do. Everybody teaches you. You got to carry 15 sandbags. Dig every night. I'm not going to carry 15. You got to carry 5 to 7 quarts of water. I'm not going to carry that. Well, he only lasted 29 days, and it's to be cautious and to listen that's automatic. It's rare you get a person like him that thinks what they say in combat is time and country gives you, like Red, we just call Red the Head, 27 months in he was, to us, he was like a general. Been there 27 months, going 3 years in combat. And he goes, I am not leaving Vietnam until it's over, and the guy knew what to do, knew everything, man. Sergeant Cuddle, Sergeant Carr, they when you're there, you care for each other. Just like the first week I got there, the first couple of days I got there, every night you got to climb to the highest point, and so you could shoot down at Charlie. So we got to be an upper thing. I'm struggling getting my rucksack in there because I got so much shit and I never carry that much stuff in my back. But anyway, when we get up there, Sergeant Cuddle says, hey, Taco. I go, yes, yeah, Sarge. He said, that's what we're going to call you from now on because you're the only Latino we got here. And he goes, you're the only brown boy we got here. So I said, okay. So he says, tonight, Charlie's going to be shooting at us. Don't shoot back. This is my second day in country. Isn't this war? I mean, aren't we supposed to shoot back when they shoot at us? He goes, yeah, but that's when you're having contact. We don't want no contact at night. And I go, why not? And he goes, because the minute you shoot, they're going to see that muzzle flash.
Yeah.
And they're going to know where we're at. Okay, they may shoot a little bit, and they're going to stop. And in that morning, they're going to wait for us. So we don't want them to know where we're at because we'll be on here. We're going to go outside the other side of the hill, the other direction. And usually we used to, everybody wake each other up 0500 in the morning, which is 5 o'clock in the morning. And then you move out. It was, there's so many different, you had booby traps, punji sticks, you had malaria. You guys got malaria. We didn't wear any underwear because you get jungle rot. You had guys get jungle rot. Guys get cysts on their back. Generally, the white guys from Kentucky, Arkansas, they would get those cysts in their back, big boils. And then when you're going through the swamps, you got leeches, and then the monsoon. You're doing night ambush in the monsoon, and it's raining 24/7s. So for 5 days, you're sitting in a puddle of mud with rain 5 days, 24 hours a day, looking at each other and say, I don't think Charlie's going to come out here. It's crazy. All the obstacles aside from combat. You're up in Monkey Mountain. You got gorillas. You run into monkeys. You're in one of, like the Marines were in another area, and you got tigers over there. And you get the regular Army guy. I heard when we were up in Monkey Mountain, but they said one guy got beat up by a gorilla. And then when we got them thing, you're trying to help the Montagnards way up there, and you just so different, many obstacles and climbing, and just without water. You go without water for 2 days and without food for 2. I mean, my biggest pet peeve right now is that water, and nobody could waste water in my house. I would just go AWOL, man. My PTSD would get out of control if you wasted your food. My kids will tell you, we go anywhere, put all your food in a plate and give it to me. I'll take it home and I'll eat it. And just to go without it. I mean, I suffered enough as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
I tell people, we were so poor, my mom bought recycled canned food. It was crazy, growing up without. And then you're numb, and I think that was part of the thing that I could handle. But at the same time, a lot of the country boys were poor. There was no fights. When you're infantry, you got to have each other's back. I mean, it's godly. You can't even have one speck of the thought of the bond that you have. It's like you could be a racist, and Jerry, they got blown up. Red, that was his best friend. And you get one guy from Alabama and one guy from Mississippi, and they become friends. And only war could do that. To take black and white and bond them. There's airborne infantry. When you have Rangers, you got the elite. So these are not people like regular Army who got drafted and stuff. And I got drafted. I didn't want to be here. You had none of that with the herd. Everybody, once you go to jump school, you're volunteering for Vietnam, man.
So you had mentioned that when you first got there, you had a moment. You had a moment where you're like, I made a mistake. Does that change when you're out on the field, or did that change for you, or were you still, or you just don't have time to even think of that anymore?
That's it. I mean, you done did it already. Now there's nothing, zero you can do about it. So what's left? They call it the quick and the dead, in self-preservation. Now you know what it's all about, and this ain't the hokey pokey, Now it's kill or be killed. I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, there's no thought process behind it.
Yeah.
Nobody had to say, well, how did that feel? Or what did you do? Nobody talks about it. You just go do it, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. You told me earlier before we got on camera that you were wounded. Do you want to share? You don't have to, but did you want to share what happened to you? Or
yeah, that was in that where we lost those guys, and that we were in that donut perimeter. We came in. All the Hawk teams came in, and we merged, and all of a sudden, one of the Hawk teams, one of the guys that came in, tripped a flare. Well, everybody that sets that perimeter at 0500, you got to disarm your flares and your claymores and everything else, you know. So that somebody didn't take that one down. So when we came in, I was already there. We were already there, and then uh, half the guys we got together, and one of the guys tripped the flare, and that flare went off, and I said, "Oh shit, Charlie's gonna find us," and just waited, and 0515, I said to Sergeant Cottles, I go, "Sarge, we got to get moving out of here, man. Charlie knows we're here." And he goes, "Taco, just relax, just relax." And I go, "No, man." And so I'm the grenade launcher. I'm with the M60 machine gun. So I step aside over here, and at 0530, just all the shit came in, man. Rockets come in, blew up both six. This is a perimeter called the donor perimeter, and they blew up that 60 and that 60, and that's where Charlie and them got killed, stuff, and it was just, and you know, when people in infantry school, you're taught to assault the enemy once you get in an ambush. The L ambush is the worst ambush because you have no direction to go to fall back, but they got you pinned down. And through training, you're supposed to assault the enemy. But when you get in an ambush, the first thing you do is get on the ground. I always tell people back then, I was 5'6" when I went to Nam. I got down so much I ended up being 5'3" when I came home, you know. And I tell people, you know, every day, no matter what you do, the minute you get out of bed, you're able to make a decision. In combat, when you get in an ambush, you don't make a decision. You make a reaction. And once you're down, everybody's looking around where the firefights coming. Where's it coming? Where's Charlie at? And then somebody will say, "Hey, Charlie's over there, man. We got income over here." Well, then we're going to make a decision now. Now you make a decision. And then trying to figure out what's going on. But at the time when that happens, you know, you get guys wounded and dead right away. It's really tough to engage and find out. This is, I was just watching a deal the other day, and he said the same thing on Hamburger Hill and on Hill A75, where the 173rd got the massacre. It was the worst massacre in Vietnam, worst firefight in Vietnam, Hill A75. Earl put 2 bodies over him to stay alive when Charlie was coming by shooting people. And they tell you during the firefight, if you're not wounded and there's a comrade use him for cover. If he's wounded and he can't shoot back, use him for cover. That, you know, because war is hell, but actual contact's a mother, you know, and it's not, I guess part of it is staying alive, but the most thing is just trying to kill them, you know, so you could live, you know. I mean, it's just, there's nothing to explain. And then the other thing is when it's over, you're not crying. You help those who pass and those who are wounded, and get them on the chopper, and then you hug each other and do the sign of the cross and wait for cherries to come in to replace those and move out. You hug each other, sign of the cross, nothing. You don't talk about it. You don't say nothing, you know. When the cherries come in, the 2 kids from Arkansas, they got killed. They said they brought in 10, 12 new cherries. We waited 2 hours after the firefight, and they brought them in. And then also after the firefight, you got to police the area, pick up the shells, because if you don't, Charlie will use that for booby traps, for Chicana bombs and stuff like that. So you got to police that, pick it up, bury it, or whatever. So the cherries come in 2 hours later, and two of them were from, I think, Arkansas. They come in a buddy system, and they're next to each other back home. They're farmers. They're like 4 generations, and these guys grew up together. Well, one of them said, "We don't talk about what happened after the firefight," and he says, "I wonder if there's a bullet with my name on it." No, he says, "I don't want to. I don't want to get a bullet with my name on it." And Sergeant Cuddles looked at him and says, "It's not the bullet with your name on it. It's to whom it may concern." And I said, "Wow, that's pretty heavy. I like that." To this day, I remember that just as clear as day. 19 hours later, those two kids got blown up. That was my second letter in therapy. Less than 24 hours in country. And it makes you think about the time you're there, how much time you got. That's the thing those are little things that go in your mind that you go like, wow, first day. Sometimes when guys get killed, it's called the ETS, extended time served. Sometimes when guys don't make it, 2 days prior to going home, they call it 2 days before ETS, and they call you short. And when they go, it's just kind of hard. And you just kind of shake your head, and you feel hurt inside. But it's the odds. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think kept you alive? What would you say if you could think about what you did? Do you think it was just chance, luck, or do you think?
Oh, every day I make it through a firefight, I thank God. I thank God. There's no. One of the things that I personally thought is that I want to thank God for not taking me, and I try to be a good person, so God don't feel that he chose the right person. I mean, I don't want to think that he chose the wrong person to live. I mean, there's guys next to you. I mean, I'm within 5 feet when those two guys got blown up, the two cherries that got blown up, when that rocket came in, I think it's just part of the hillside. We're looking for water. And they got it. I low crawled up to them, and I couldn't believe it when I saw them there. Help me, help me! And I crawled up there to them and just looking at the body parts there, and I just put my head down. I didn't even shoot during the firefight. I was just kind of numb to see that happen to two cherries within 19 hours, not within 24 hours in country. And if you look through statistics, you could find how many guys died the first day, second day, how many guys ETS. And I mean, any number. On Hill 875, we had a 16-and-a-half-year-old in there with the 173rd that lied about his age. We had so many 17-year-olds on the 173rd that when they got back to the press after Hill 875 and how many of them got killed, then the press got into it and they started pulling the 17-year-olds out. Mm-hmm.
So then after, so you do your two full years, or?
No. I just did my time, and then I ended up in Okinawa with the 1st Special Forces, and then that came back home.
And so you come back home, and you're how old now? 22?
21.
21. And your wife is...
Well, yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I was probably 22 when I got back.
And your wife is there waiting for you?
Kinda.
So do you go back to her, or you?
Yeah, I did. I did. I tried to make it work, but when you're gone, how they say it, the kids will play, and you she filed for divorce when I was in combat, but because you're in combat, you cannot get a divorce in combat. You know, so I I didn't know. I was just kind of left in my mind thinking that I should be there for the kids no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tried to make it work, you know, but that only lasted 50. I've been with my second wife 45 years,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and because she helped me. It, and that's what's wrong with, I'm trying to help an Afghanistan vet. When people, when you're in combat and your PTSD is so bad, to this day, helicopters still bother me when they go overhead. I always want to go outside and look at it, see if they're coming to pick me up for another mission. You know, um, nothing can trump my ordeal in Vietnam. Nothing. You know, and she would complain. Oh, you're a crybaby. Oh, you're this. When I came back, you know, I just couldn't. I had to be always against the wall and always looking around. Always, you can't ever get that out of your. Now I'm more. I can sit. I can sit here. I don't have to. I mean, at least my back's against the wall. When I went to a restaurant, I had to get that table, and I had to be. My back had to be there. I want to see everybody coming in the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And you.
Did you know what was happening when you came back? Because a lot of times, what I hear from your generation is that they didn't know that it was caused by the war. That the PTSD and.
Well, you didn't see if the government would have gave you some help, you would have known. But you personally didn't know it was PTSD. Everybody's getting the same ordeal. Don't touch me. Don't do this. Don't do that. And even when I got back, even I slept on the floor. You know, touch me with a broom. You know, don't. When I finally got into bed, I put 2x4s in between the mattresses so I can handle it. You know, and then for the door, I put empty cans so the kids. I didn't do nothing wrong to the kids. You know, and even then, I would go in the backyard and take my 9mm and take my cutting knife and stick it there and sit in the corner of the fence in the backyard. A lot of times, when I was working in masonry, you put up these lines for the batter boards to build a building. The lines. I'd trip over the line like I did in Nam, and Sergeant Carr pushed me aside, and the booby trap went off. And when I tripped on the line, I would lay there. I start crying, and I would just flash back that fast. And when that helicopter come over, I'd be working. All of a sudden, I just stop and I just look and just flash back going to another mission and coming to pick me up, and just little things, you know. When the jackhammer goes off, I feel like that's an AK-47 going off, and I'll lay on the scaffold, man. We go, what the hell is wrong? I said, got a flashback. And there's no moment for it. There's no moment for it. To this day, if you pop a balloon out there, I will jump. I will jump. You know, car backfire. I'd be walking down the street and the car backfire. I'd be laying on the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. You know, I tell you one thing. What I did was that we went to the fair when I got back, and at night they did the fireworks. And when they did the fireworks, I had my son in my arms, and then boom, boom, man! I thought it was incoming. Man, I just got up, took off running. I took off running, and then the lady yells out, "He kidnapped that baby! He kidnapped that baby!" And I'm running, and the security ran after me and tackled me, you know. And I just said I just had a flashback from Nam, man. But they jumped me, you know, and just So many different things will happen, and it never goes away. It never goes away. Uh, because when I'm going through therapy, they would ask you stupid crap that has no association with Vietnam. And I tell the psychiatrist, I said, listen, I don't want to listen to that crap. That's not going to help me out. Help me that, physically I left Vietnam, but mentally I constantly return to Vietnam. Help me that way. And if you can't do that, then let me get out of here. Because the psychiatrist doesn't work totally on your problems in Nam, and that's what's going to help you out. So in therapy, you have each guy tell their story and tell their firefight, and it makes you relax a little bit, because in the bush, you don't let your guard down for nothing. You go to, if you sleep, I don't ever remember closing my eyes in Vietnam, but to this day, I will not sleep on my stomach. I sleep on my back or the side. And you sleep like this with that grenade launcher. I'm like this with my finger on the trigger. Do not put the safety on. Everything is ready. There's no way in God's world, baby, you can ever let it go. You just can't. And my exes say, let it go. You've been here 5 years, you're still crying, you're a crybaby. Well, you didn't know what I'd gone through. You never had to shit your pants and piss your pants and go without food for 2 days, with water for 2 days, and watching people die, and you're trying to survive, and you're walking in the monsoon. The humidity there, you're walking along on a trail when you get together in a squad after coming out of the hawk teams, and everybody's staggered. And you can just see the steam that your clothes are dark green because of the sweat. And you can see steam coming out. And it's so godly, and you're walking in the mountains. And I mean, for the entire time, no McDonald's, no stand, no stuff, just jungle, hooches, burn them down, shoot them, move on, search and destroy missions, 911, aid and assist, just move it out, just keep going. And you see the steam, and you'll be walking, and your brain will say, Charlie, shoot me. Get me out of this misery, man. Shoot me. And I know people who are watching this guys that are outside the wire will definitely can relate or say the same thing. You just get so frustrated, so tired that you don't care no more. Life just doesn't have that meaning like it did when you were first there. Life has a flavor for only those who fought for it. But you lose it to a certain point sometimes when.
Yeah. So tell me, like, is there anything you'd want to share to any young person who's thinking of enlisting? Is there any advice you'd want to give them?
No, what I tell the kids that are going in, if you have a brain, and if you don't want to go infantry, and you have a brain, select something that you think you could be good at, or something that you know that after your 3-4 years you can get out and get a job. Don't wait like the kid next door to me. He wasted a whole year. I talked him into. I said, I don't care what branch you go in. If you got a brain, get in there. You've been sitting here for a whole freaking year and you done nothing. You're worthless. I said, Jacob, get in the service and apply yourself. You're going to get money. You're going to get medical. You're going to meet a woman. You're going to meet people. You're doing nothing here. I give him a banana every other day. He sits in his computer. After he graduated, I gave him $50 for graduation here. So did nothing. And then he decided to go in. Now he's in the Marines. He's stationed in Okinawa now. And then he was going. Then he went to Hawaii, met a gal, married her, and a year later came over to the house. I gave him $100 for his wedding. It was nice now. He's got a life, and military's not bad. I mean, those who go infantry ask to go infantry. You're not put in there like you were in Vietnam. You know, you get drafted and go in the infantry. I didn't ask for this, you know, but you have a choice now. And if you want to go in, if you're doing nothing at home, you can go in there and get a career. You can become somebody. You know, I met a guy that his son was a medic, became a medic during Afghanistan, and his son liked it so much that then he went higher up in medical thing that they end up sent him to medical school to become a doctor. And then after that, then he met a gal that he became a lieutenant. Then he went to OCS, became a lieutenant, and then he met a gal, got married to her. She's a doctor. Then he's a doctor. Dad working at Home Depot. You know, I mean, you can do it. You know, it's only, life is only what you make it. You know.
What would you tell Andrew? What would you tell Andrew? Would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself?
Well, you know, when I first came back to the world, see, I didn't want none of my sons to go in the army. I was assuming, but my deal was I was assuming that they were all going to go infantry. But had I had some balance and some stuff and etc., I could have said, hey, go into service and become a technician, be a mechanic, be this, then come on, you can get a job. But I didn't do that. My bitterness of Vietnam, and I'll tell you one thing that Dr. Schneider, my doctor, did that was a blessing to at least to me, that he had everybody buy a book of Vietnam, read it. Mine was by Dr. Benjamin, something. And to see, was it right that we were there or not? But before, I didn't care. I'd rather have the war over there than have it here. That's my thought process, and that's the way everybody was back then. Okay? I want to fight over that, I want to fight over here. And then I want to represent my country. I want to represent my people. If you look statistics, World War II, Vietnam, Latinos, unbelievable. I think overall as a single race, they got more medals than anybody. You know, Latinos in record number in infantry. You know, the last three Latinos were Medal of Honor recipients. You know, and that last guy, when his parents were from Mexico, he didn't even bring his mom and dad over there when he got the Medal of Honor. You know, the 173rd has 18 Medal of Honor recipients. You know, and it's huge in record number. You know, I tell people you don't have to go in that. But the deal was that after I read the book, it made me feel that it was wrong for us to be there. You know, Ho Chi Minh was a good guy. We put Dim in power. He became more corrupt, and then we assassinate him. You know, and this is for the French. We made an agreement in 1953 after Korea to help France, and they've been fighting there for 25 years. And I read and I go, holy shit, they're already going to send us back in there. In 1959, we sent the MACV advisors, which is called Special Forces. By 1963, we got 20,000 MACV advisors. They're sending now the 173rd to Okinawa to get ready to be deployed to Vietnam. You know, but in 1953, we made an agreement to help France, and it was over the rubber, the coffee, the rice, and it was a capitalist war. And we had no business there. That, if you die for your country, that's one thing. But die for some other country that was wrong is not right. You know? And yeah, I think for a lot of guys, if you're a patriot to this country, when I was in high school, we said the Pledge of Allegiance. I never cried. But no matter baseball, football, soccer, anything, even my son's football games I used to go to, when they do the national anthem, it's my country. I got a shirt that says American Mexican. I got it from San Antonio, Texas, from the reunion. It's got a Mexican flag and American flag. And on it says American Mexican. And when I came back to the world, when I filed for unemployment, and God is my witness, babe, I crossed out Mexican American and I put American Mexican. And she said, oh, you can't do that. I said Afro-American, Chinese American, Indian American, Mexican American. I crossed it out. American man. Oh, you can't do that. I said, did you fight for this country? Did you kill anybody? Did you ever represent this country? No. Well, I did. And now I'm an American Mexican. I'm first generation here. But that flag means so much to me now. It's unbelievable, the feeling that I have for it. Every time you take the hill, you put the American flag up, you know, and for the country not to help you, not to care. They didn't care about sending you over there. They didn't care about you coming back.